In this exercise, we're going to be creating some simple business card designs using the monogram logos that we just created. And business cards can actually be really exciting. As a creative person, they are an essential part of connecting with people and showing them your take on design. So it's something that you want to make sure you can be really proud of so that when you hand it off to people that you're looking to connect with, it really reflects who you are as a designer. Before we jump into creating the business cards, I want you all to take some time to look for some inspiration. This is a really crucial step, not just in creating a business card, but really starting any project. To get out there, look at other people's work, and get inspired. Because by looking at other people's work, you can really get a sense for what's out there and what you can do. And remember, this is not copying to look at other people's work. This is an essential part of research to get inspired, and then you're going to take these ideas and really spin them in your own way. So it's definitely not copying, and like I said, it's a crucial part of the process. So I've pulled up this website called designspiration.net. This is a really good one. I just went ahead and typed business card into the search box, and you can see there's a ton of ideas here. Maybe you want to do some sort of border solution like this. Maybe you want to do some kind of flood on the back along with a really clean white side on the front. Maybe you want to do black on both sides. This person has, different colors on the different cards, and there's kind of like almost some sort of tagline locked under the name. That's really interesting too. There's also some cool special finishes here. Since we're not printing the cards, we obviously can't go down that road, but the edge painting is a really cool idea, the blue edges. Or here there's some kind of like purplish edge. That's pretty cool too. I like the line work that this person is using also. In the typesetting, there's all these lines. Those are helping, achieve some structure with the typesetting. This is another site that I use for inspiration all the time, Pinterest. Again, just type business card into the search box, and you're going to get tons of different ideas from looking at this. This one's pretty interesting, how deadly simple it is. It's super minimalist. Whereas here, there's a more complex lockup that's happening with the information, and then the back is just the logo nice and big. And then the last site I wanted to show you is Behance. Again, I just went to the search bar and typed in business card, and ton of inspiration here as well. I like how here there's a flood, but it's only halfway up. That's kind of an interesting look. Okay, so definitely go through here and get inspired. Seriously, guys, I can't stress how critical this step is. And if you get in the habit of doing this before you design anything, you're really going to grow more quickly as a designer and just stay on top of where design is headed. Okay, let's jump into Illustrator. So I'm going to create a new document in Illustrator using the print preset because we are going to set up these business cards for a professional print job. So let's choose print for that. And then under the width and height, I'm going to choose inches. And then I'm going to choose 3.5 inches for the width and 2 inches for the height. So this is standard business card size, and it's a good starting point. But do keep in mind that you can make it whatever size you want. Square business cards are really cool. Mini business cards can be really cool too. So totally up to you what you want to do. You can also choose a vertical orientation if you'd prefer to work that way. I'm going to stick with the classic horizontal for now. And I'm also going to just do 2 artboards since there is going to be a front and a back to the business card. So here in my document, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up the logos that we created in the last assignment. So I'm going to open up that file. Here we go. And I'm going to choose this middle logo to move forward with. I think all 3 are pretty good, but this one is really readable. I can really read the B and the P, where this one looks a little bit too much just like a B. And this one, I don't know if it totally reflects my personality, and again, it's a little bit harder to read with that B being backwards. It almost looks like a 3 or something a little bit different. So I'm going to go with this middle option, and I'm just going to copy it into the clipboard with Command C, and then move back to my new document and click Command V to paste it into place. I'm going to move it out of the way, and that'll be just an asset I can work with. Also go ahead and click Command G to group it together. And you could also do that by going up to Object and Group. Okay, so I need to put some color into this brand. I don't want to just use black and white, although black and white brands can be really cool. Generally speaking, most brands are going to use some sort of color. So in order to do this, I'm going to go up and use the color themes tool. We've used this before, and it's a really good way to just find some cool colors. I was just looking through these, and you could type a lot of stuff into here. It might be fun or sleek. Just play around with different words that represent the type of feel that you're going for. I typed in natural, and I came up with some interesting options here. I'm going to go with this one, natural 1, because this one looked pretty cool. And don't feel like you have to use all the colors in the color palette. I'm just going to use these first 2. So I'm going to add that to my swatches. Okay, and there it is at the bottom of the swatches panel. All right, so the business card has a front and the business card has a back. The front is where most of the information is going to go. The back could be a place where a website address goes. It could be a place where something purely decorative goes. It's kind of up to you. In really complex business cards, sometimes you need both sides in order to convey all the information. But in this case, I'm going to put very limited information on my business card. So the back is going to be more of a space where I can do something a little bit more decorative and fun. I'm going to go ahead and close the color theme tool. Let's start with the front. So I'm going to take my logo, make a copy, and just bring it down to size. Generally speaking, with business cards, you want things to be pretty small. Don't go overboard with things being large. Don't feel like you have to fill up all the space. A lot of times with simple business cards, the white space is what really makes it. So don't be afraid to have a lot of white space in your design. Let me zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to apply the color to this logo. I think I'm going to go with this kind of lighter color. And I'll sort of put that into about the right size. Then I'm going to drag out a text area, and I'm just going to write down the information that I want to put in the business card. Again, this is up to you. I'm just going to go with my name, my title, my email address, and my web address. If you want to do other things, it's totally up to you. You might want to do your home address. You might want to do your telephone number. Keep in mind that if you're doing something that's a little bit more of a personal information, maybe use fake information for that if you don't feel comfortable sharing it with the class. So something like your phone number or your address, you might want to switch that around. The design is really what counts here. But just think about what type of information you would want to have on your business card. I think generally speaking, going with less information is usually better, because if you include something like your home address, it's usually not something that in a business environment you're going to want to let people know. So I usually like to, keep it to the types of contact information that I want them to use. In my case, I would love them to email me. I don't really want them to call, so I'm just going to go with that email address. So I'm definitely going to put my name down. Don't worry about the styling for now. We're going to style it later. And I'm going to put my title. So again, this is another place where you can use a little creativity. What kind of title do you want to call yourself? Or if you're doing this with someone else's name, what is the right title for them? In my case, I'm going to put graphic designer. And also put an artist. So graphic designer and artist. I'm going to put my email address. And my website address. I'll just put the one for San Diego City College Graphic Design. There we go. Okay, and now we just have to go ahead and style this text. It's definitely too big. A lot of times people go too big on business card typography. Generally speaking, 8 points is even kind of on the large side for business cards, believe it or not. People think of 8 points as being really small, but business card type traditionally is really small. Doesn't mean that you can't do a really cool business card with big type. Maybe that's a certain style that you're trying to go for. But in my case, I'm going to go a little bit more classic, and I'm going to start with 7 points. I'm also going to need to find some fonts to work with. And keep in mind that you can use different fonts for different pieces of information. You probably want to keep it to 2 fonts max, maybe 3 fonts. But, a little bit of font mixing can actually add a lot of texture and richness to the final brand. So Let me first find a font, and then I'll play around with switching up some of the other pieces of information. So the logo has a certain technical feeling to it, has a certain energy to it. I want to make sure to match that feeling in the font that I'm going for. There's also a certain condensed thing that's going on here. So I think Din might be a good font for this. So I'm just going to pull that up. It's a kind of tried and true font for me. And I'm also going to switch the color of this. I'm going to use that darker color. There we go. Okay, so I'm starting to add some style to this. Definitely want to have some, hierarchy between my name and the other piece of information, because the name is more important than this other stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and bump my name up a point, and then I'm going to bump all this stuff down a point. This is still feeling a little bit bold, so I'm going to try to find a second font for this. Maybe in this case I'll go with a serif font, because that's going to, again, just add a little bit more of that texture. So I'm going to go ahead and try Freight. This is another font that I really like. This is available through Typekit. And yeah, I'm going to go with Freight Text. And I'll choose the lightweight. There we go. And maybe I'll even use the italic for my title. So I'm going to switch that to light italic. All right. So a couple more things that I want to do. I'm going to highlight this, go back to my character panel, and just increase the leading a little bit. Right now there's nothing in the leading because all the different pieces of information have different leading, so it's not sure what to put there. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in 9. Okay, that'll give me a little bit more space between these pieces of information. That looks good. Another thing I could try is maybe go in all caps on my name. If I really want to, drive up that hierarchy, I could go ahead and toggle the all caps. And a lot of times when you're doing all caps, it's good to add a little bit of tracking as well. So I'm going to increase that tracking amount just to give a little bit more space between the characters. Okay, so I'm starting to get a lot of refinement. You can see there's more texture in this typography now that I'm kind of working with it. I think there might be a little bit too much hierarchy, so I'm just going to scale this down just a tiny bit. I'm going to go down to 7.5. All right, so we're looking pretty close there. I'm going to set that aside for now, and now I'm going to work on the back. So I think on the back, I'm going to do a repeat of the logo, but I don't want it to be exactly the same size and place. So what I'm going to do is make a copy, and then I'm really going to scale this up. So I'm just going to grab one of these endpoints, hold down Option and Shift, and just scale it up. Maybe even make it a little bit bigger than the card itself. There we go. And I want to center this in this card. So I'm going to use these align tools up here. So under this, I'm going to make sure that I'm aligning to the artboard, and then I can go ahead and center it horizontally, and then also center it vertically. So now I know that this is exactly mathematically in the middle of that artboard. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. I definitely want to chop off that top and bottom part. So in order to do that, I can use a clipping mask. I'm going to go ahead and just draw that rectangle on top. And then if you remember how to make a clipping mask, you're going to want to select both the lower object and the top object. This top rectangle is going to be the container for the clipping mask. And then under object, I'm going to go down to clipping mask and make. And that's going to only show what's inside of that outer rectangle. Okay. I'm also going to put a flood in the back. I think this is sometimes a good idea to have one side of the card have a flood and the other side be white. So I'm going to go ahead and draw another rectangle here right on top. And maybe this one I'll switch to the darker tone. And then I'm going to go ahead and select that with the selection tool, and then go to Object, Arrange, and Send to Back. So that'll go behind the actual logo itself. Okay, cool. So this is starting to look pretty good. I think this could definitely work. This could have a better arrangement. I'm not sure about where these elements are located right now, so maybe I'll just kind of go down on it and lock it a little bit more to the bottom of the composition. Another thing I'm going to do is turn on my rulers, because I'm going to create a guide here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my rulers. You can also do this with Command R and just drag a guide down. And I think what I'm going to do is just get my type to line up with this middle point of the logo here. So it's actually pretty close, but I'm just going to move that down so it's on the guideline. And there we go. Okay, I'm going to turn off my guides by hitting Command semicolon. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. I think the leading is maybe a little bit too much on this. Again, this is just by look and feel. So I'm going to go back to my character panel here and just dial down the leading a tiny bit. I'm going to go to 8.5. Okay. And just a little bit more refinement. Another thing I could try here is playing with the colors. So what I'm going to do is make a copy of these to just try out a different orientation of the colors. So I'm going to grab the artboard tool and then just hold down Command and hold down Shift to make a copy of the front, and then I'm going to do the same with the back. So again, making copies is a good way to go, because now after I make some changes, I can go back and compare it to the original. So in this change version, I'm going to go ahead and make my name the lighter color. Okay, that looks good. And then I'm gonna switch the stuff in the back here. So I've got the clipping mask here. I'm going to double click on the clipping mask to enter isolation mode so I can go ahead and alter the color of this logo. I'm going to change that to the dark shade. And then I'm going to change the background color to the lighter shade. There we go. And then also maybe I can make the logo over here the darker version. Yeah. Maybe I like that, the blue, actually. Yeah. So I think this is the variation that I like a little bit better. So I'm going to go back to the artboard tool and just delete these other artboards. I could keep them around, but I'm pretty sure about this. And since we're going kind of quick, I'll just kind of move along. So I'm going to delete those artboards and delete that content. And so this is the final business card I'm going to move along with. I'm just going to move this down a little bit more. Again, that little bit of refinement is always a good thing. Okay, and remember, the white space is a good thing, so don't feel the need to fill up all this white space. You can just leave it empty, and it's actually going to feel a little bit more sophisticated with all that area being blank. So don't feel like you need to fill up every little nook and cranny. All right. Okay, cool. So my business card is ready to go. The last thing I'm going to do is create the final artboard for presentation. So if you read the assignment, we need to have 3 artboards, one for the front, one for the back. We've already got those. And then one more for the final mock-up. And then the final mock-up is going to be in 11 by 8.5. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the artboard tool and then draw out a new artboard. And I'm going to change this to 11 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. All right, there we go. Zoom out a little bit. Okay, so this artboard is going to be where we do sort of the mock-up presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and add a background color into this. Basically what this is going to help us do is sort of visualize the final product, because in their own artboards it's a little bit more difficult, and in a mock-up we're going to be able to just visualize it a little more. So I'm going to change this background color to kind of a light gray. And then I'm going to make a copy of the back of the business card. So I'm going to hold down Command and just move it into place. And you can see that that went behind the background. So I'm going to select the background and then go up to Object, Arrange, and send that to the back. Okay, so now our business card's coming on in front. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same with the front of the business card. One issue that we're having here is there's no background to this. So if I just copy this in, it's not really anything. So what I need to do is create a white rectangle behind this so that I can have defined edges to my business card in the mockup. So I'm going to grab the rectangle tool and select white, and then just create a white rectangle right behind. All right, and then I'm going to arrange and send that to the back so it comes behind everything. And then just make a copy of that right here. Cool. All right, so that's looking pretty good. One last final touch that I'll make is adding a little bit of drop shadow to these 2 cards, because it'll help it pop out of the background just a bit. So I'm going to select the background rectangles for these 2 cards, And then in the properties panel, there's this little button that says FX. That's to add effects to certain shapes. You can also access this by going up to Window and Appearance. So the same thing is in the Appearance panel. You can hit this little FX button to add those effects. I'm just going to do it through the Properties panel. I'm going to click on that, go down to Stylize, and to Drop Shadow. So this will help me, again, just get a little bit of separation from the background. I can turn on Preview to see what it's going to look like as I work. And I'm going to keep X and Y offset set to 0 because I don't want it to float away on me. You can play around with what those do, but basically it just causes this shadow to kind of shift around. But I want to keep the shadow right underneath the object. So I'm going to keep those at 0. And then the blur is basically the size of the shadow. And opacity is how dark it is. So I'm going to keep it on multiply. I'll go with 20% opacity and 0.07 inch blur. There we go. All right, so now we've got a mock-up. This is going to be easier, if we're presenting to a client, they're going to be able to visualize this much better than, when they're in artboards, because when they're on artboards, the final PDF is going to have those on separate pages. So that might be a little bit awkward. So this definitely really helps. So this is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and save this as a PDF, and it's ready to turn in.